Hey, welcome back to Mike's Garage. Today I am working on a 2001 Mercedes E320 4MATIC sedan. Not so bad. You can see there's quite a bit of play in that the upper ball joint. Unfortunately, requires changing of the entire control arm. It's all integrated. I will also be doing the lower ball joints while I'm in here, and I've also noticed that the wheel bearings have a bit of a hum driving on the road. I'm assuming they're original. The car is 16 years old, so we're going to take the steering knuckle off completely, and this car is not too bad to get off, and figured it's as good a time as any to change the wheel bearing. So upper ball joint and control arm, lower ball joint and wheel bearing. So let's get started. Start by removing the brake caliper. This particular vehicle has a couple of plastic caps covering the caliper mounting. We expose the caliper bolts. They are a 7mm hex. As you're loosening it off, give it a slight backwards pressure to the socket handle. It'll allow you to remove the pin completely. A good chance to do a brake service as well, as far as lubricating the pins and cleaning up this pads. Okay, and before we go any further, I want to disconnect the brake pad sensor and get that out of the way. So this wire just pulls out of the connector, and then the rest of it's held in with a 10mm fastener back here. Okay. Yesterday I started soaking these with penetrating fluid so that we wouldn't, try to minimize the number of snap bolts. This thing is pretty old, and in Ontario we get a lot of salt on the roads. Okay, so it's that one. Alright, so I'm going to get the wire to just fit in here. Let's this one. And we can take that. I'm just going to hang it over the control arm for now. Okay, so let's see if I can get this to show up. It's a caliper mounting spring. Okay, in this particular case, because the pad is got spring clips inside the piston, you need to take the outboard pad out first. I'm just a little stuck, so it definitely needs a bit of a brake service. Actually, just replaced these last year. After one winter, they're already starting to seize up pretty good. but they're still look new. So now the inboard pad. Just be careful you don't hit the sensor wire, but it mounts inside the piston with those spring clips. So put that aside. And we'll clean this up later. So kind of a general brake cleaning as we go here. So okay, I've just tie wrap the caliper up here so it won't go anywhere. Okay, now the caliper mounting bracket itself. It's 18 millimeter. A little air cap. Okay, caliper bracket. Okay, the caliper itself in this case is held on with a 5 millimeter Allen. Again, this is another one that's easy to snap. So I also soak this down a bit. Alright, now what I like to do, first I'm going to soak these bolts down. They hold the backing plate on, or I guess more of a dust shield than a backing plate. But I had all this part probably last year when I changed the shocks in this car. Being the 4MATIC, it was a bit of a chore. Basically steering knuckle off, axle removed, and then a special spring compressor to compress the spring while it's still in the car. I didn't film that. This is before I even was making videos. Again, these are small fasteners they can be pretty rusty, and it won't take much to snap these off. So there's 3 10 millimeters kind of around the perimeter of the dust shield. Okay, so that's the dust shield. So it is a T40. Okay, this first one, these are pretty snug. Mostly because they're all rusty. Okay, for the next one, fingers crossed we don't snap it. Yeah, as you can see, these get pretty rusty in there, exposed to the elements and all our lovely salt. Okay. Wheel speed wire. This bracket just slides off the steering knuckle. wheel speed sensor with all kinds of crap all over it. The magnetic sensor, so it all those little rust metal particles would just stick to it. So we'll hang that one over the control arm. Finish taking this bracket off. Next step, I'm going to take the tie rod end off. So 22 millimeter. Put it back out a little bit in case we need to beat on it. Give it a few smacks and it should pop out. Let that soak for a while. So then get the penetrating fluid to loosen that up. Alright, I'm taking the axle nut off now. It's 27 millimeter. Okay. These are only torqued down to 200 pounds, so not too bad. Axle's nice and free. Okay. Alright, I'm going to take the upper control arm nut off next. I mean, all this is certainly doable without air tools, but it just makes it a little easier sometimes. And this is just a kind of a home garage, doing this for a hobby. I don't buy super expensive stuff, so. This one I'm not worried about smashing on it because the controller is getting replaced along with the ball joint, of course. Now I'm putting the nut back on so that when this does pop, the controller won't go flying upwards. Just look all the way. Okay. Now, obviously, any kind of suspension work you're doing, you got to understand what's going to happen when you start disconnecting certain things. For the most part, the spring is going to be maxed out by the shock inside of it. It'll stop it from fully extending. I also have a jack under the lower control arm to raise it up. So the pressure that's on the control arm, I mean, I can overcome it with my hands right now. So nothing catastrophic will happen. I'll take this off the rest of the way. You just don't want surprises where the spring is allowed to fully extend because you've disconnected a control arm and you weren't expecting it. Okay. This is really why we're here to start with, is for this particular ball joint. Very loose. There's some up and down and lots of side to side. Now, to get the control arm the rest of the way off requires the car to be lowered, and the rest of it's done under the hood with a long bolt that goes all the way through the tower here. So at this point, I'm going to continue to get this knuckle off. As we said, into the lower ball joint. Now, I'm actually going to put this control arm back on temporarily. The reason for that is I need to pull this hub off first. Okay, what I've done here, this is the lug nuts, and I have attached an old bolt onto it. One, so it would grab the puller and not come all the way through. And of course, two is to protect the lug nuts themselves. All right. Voila. I guess this has never come off, so it actually wasn't too terrible. And later on, I'll show how to get this the front bearing race off the hub. Looks like my $58 pulling kit from Harbor Freight did the trick. Like I said, I'm in Ontario, but I did a trip recently to Michigan, and as usual, hit Harbor Freight. So for the lower ball joint, it's actually it's fixed in the two different places. So there's a side nut here, which you can get at no problem, and there is another nut in here. Normally, you can only get in here with a wrench. So because I'm taking the entire knuckle off, I will remove the knuckle by the side bolt, and then it'll expose the top one. Put that back on. Now I'm changing these lower ball joints, so I'm not worried about beating on these ones. These tie rod ends are fairly new, so I do not want to damage them. Go. Now earlier that did not work, so I'm gotta think the this coil helped. Okay. The tie rod end is taken care of. So now I'm going after the lower ball joint on the side connection. Okay, lower one's free. So I'm going to come back to the upper control arm nut. Take that back off. So now with the side one off, the top one off, and the tie rod end removed, this will just pull right out of here now. As you can see, this now exposes the top ball joint. Nut. I'll get that out next. I believe that's also a 22mm. Well, and there's the lower ball joint. It's, you know, it's fairly loose. I don't know if it's that making a lot of noise, but like I said, we're in here. As far as I know, it's original. Can't be 100%. So it's getting changed. They're pretty cheap. Okay, so we're over at the bench, and I'm going to work on getting the snap ring. Lube this up for a bit. Some penetrating oil, and then press the bearing out. Here's a quick shot of this is the passenger side. I did this one a couple days ago, but both sides are pretty much the same. I think the only difference is under the hood, where you take that long bolt out through the tower for the upper control arm, but the rest of the knuckle, bearing removal, everything else is the same. So I'm only filming the one side. The snap ring is very rusted in place, so this is going to take it'll be, you know, I was quick on the video, but this will probably sit overnight, and I'll probably come back at this tomorrow. Ring moving a little bit first. While it's soaking, I'm going to move on to the wheel hub and getting that race off. Another Harbor Freight special. Now, in this particular race, there is a small lip in here. It was just enough to pull it off on the other one. However, because of it's angled up a bit, and typically the puller would go this way up, and this is also angled, I ended up putting it on upside down, so I had a nice flat surface to grab it on instead. It seemed to have worked. I'll try to demonstrate here. Just fits inside that groove. Still need to be crazy tight, just enough that it doesn't slip out of that notch. This piece came out of a kit from a ball joint press, and it actually has just this little dimple in the middle, which worked out well. So I put that on there. This is part of the hub, the bearing splitter kit. It also has another kind of a matching ball here, so it fits in this groove quite nicely, so it's all been lubricated. Alright, throw on some safety glasses in case something comes flying apart of me. So, this is my setup. Like I said, this is probably technically upside down, but bites into this little ridge that's already part of the race, so that I don't have to, you know, cut my own notch. And this is just a little electric impact, so it just doesn't make it go out. Okay, so that's as far as I will reach the current setup. Okay, so I just found an impact socket that was just the right diameter of the wheel hub, but it will allow the race to slip past it. Good. And that's that. So that was pretty uneventful to get the race off the hub. Okay, so my snap ring is still pretty frozen into place, and since I need to knock the bearing loose anyways, I'm going to flip it over, hit the bearing from the back side until it hits the snap ring, and then I will flip it over and hit it back again, and that should break it free. This will fit nicely against the back of the bearing, and the socket fits over this nicely. Bigger plate, and that doesn't work. the screwdriver behind the snap ring to just get it broken loose. Seems to be working. And there goes the snap ring. Now, make sure the bearing is loose. Hit it from behind a few more times. On the passenger side, my bearing press would not budge it. I think I just need to get that initial shock to break it loose. I do not have a shock press, but this is working fine. Alright, I think I started to move. I'm going to try the press now. So in case anyone's wondering why I took the knuckle out just to use the type of press that you could use while it's in the car. I was doing the upper and lower ball joint anyways. There's only one connection left, which is the tie rod, and it's a lot easier in my case for to work off the car. And in this particular design, all three connections are tapered fits, so there's no risk of throwing the alignment off, even though I'll probably get it checked anyways. So that's why I'm doing it the way I am. It's a little bit nice. Back of the forcing screw. This kit's actually pretty decent. The forcing screw threads are very coarse. Prior to when we did the passenger side, I put the biggest impact I had on this thing, and it didn't hurt the threads. I did use some gear oil on it, so. That. And we have what's left of the bearing. Alright, I'm going to clean up the groove where the snap ring fits in. It's pretty rusty in there. Okay, we are at the point where it's time to put the bearing back into the knuckle, so all cleaned out. Spray lube in there. Okay, time for the bearing. I actually put this in the freezer overnight, supposed to help shrink it down, maybe make it a little easier. Let's see. Perfect fit to me. Now these bearings do not have any kind of speed sensor on them, so I'm pretty sure it doesn't matter which way it goes. However, the old bearings were the label facing in, so I'm just going to do that. Large plate for the back. Forcing screw nut. Let's see. So center that on the bearing the best I can. on the outside of the assembly of the housing to mark where the snap ring used to be. That was a tough spot to clean up completely, so put the opening back where it used to be. Alright, that popped into place pretty nice. Make sure it spins. It's fully seated. That's where it used to be. Let's go around with a punch to drive it in. It's pretty rusty, so I'm going to make sure it's fully seated. Rust or anything else stuck on here. As far as putting this in, change up the connectors a little bit. So that fits with the hub face quite nicely. As far as the backside goes, it should fit. It's the old bearing, but it should fit against the center race only, and this one fits nicely. Okay, so we're getting our press bits together here. I put this on low so it sends it home pretty slowly. Alright, so that's bottomed out. Alright, back at it today. I only get to work on this a couple hours a night through the week, so it's taking some time. At this point I have the new wheel bearing installed, and it's time to put the steering knuckle back on. This will incorporate the new ball joint, lower ball joint that is, reconnecting the tie rod end, and I'm going to loosely connect the top ball joint. I need to bring the car down to get at the bolt that holds the upper control arm, and that'll be the final portion of this repair. Here's the ball joints I'm going with, the bottom ones. Hope you can make that out. They're made in Germany. They're good quality replacement. Now, similar to before, I'm going to connect the lower half first, because if you do this later, you can't get at this nut. I want to be able to get at it for torquing it down. Lower ball joint top nut is on and torqued to 78 foot-pounds, 105 newton meters. Now it's time for the knuckle. I'll start with the top. Let's start with the top nut this time. It might make it a little easier. And since we're still doing the upper control arms, I'm going to not put this too tight right now. Now the weight of the knuckle has helped me to pull the upper control arm down because of the bushing, the force behind the bushings. Okay, lower ball joint started. Snug it up a bit. I used the old nut to pull the ball joint in because the locking portion of it's so weak now. It's keeping it from the shaft from spinning. And I'll put on my new one. Well, I don't know if this bottom one could spin anyways, because of the design of it. Okay. It is torqued to the same 78 foot-pounds. All right, let's try this again. Now, okay, axle's in. I'm going to put the axle nut in as well. Now, this is not a torque to yield. Well, I believe it is. No rotational spec on it. So I'm going to just put this in and snug it up, and then torque it later when it's on the ground. Or that's only a snug up. Although it goes later, it gets to I think it's about 200 foot-pounds, but that'll hold everything in place for now. Okay, tie right in. Okay, tie right end. The spec was like 45 foot-pounds. I'm gonna put get the brakes back on. I would like to be able to put the wheels back on so I can drop the car down, get under the hood, and then work on the upper control arm bolt. So I'm gonna continue on putting this together. A little support bracket for the hoses will go on first. Okay, time for the wheel speed sensor. Everything's been cleaned out real nice. And this little support bracket goes on top of that. Our little T40s. Alright, I'm going to spray these down a bit. These were stuck on there pretty good before, so give them a light coating of this fluid film. All right, last shield will be next. Okay, there we go. These are 3 little 10 millimeters. All right, brake lube. Okay, got that face all cleaned up. The locating screw. The rotors don't look super clean, but they're actually pretty new. Okay, big caliper bracket. With the slide pins. Brake caliper mounting bracket, 85 foot-pounds. Inboard pad first. Just watch carefully and hit that pad wear sensor wire. Pad. Now to retract the pistons because I didn't change anything, but okay, this is the kind of the brake line support bracket. 10mm. Brake pad wear indicator. Okay, caliper pins. They're all cleaned up and relubed. $7mm. Okay, caliper pins, 22 foot-pounds. Okay, plastic caps. Anytime I go near the brakes, I like to put a little fluid film on the bleeder screws so that I need to use them. It won't be all seized up and snap off of me. Okay, at this point I'm going to put this head together, put the wheels back on, drop it down, and then start on the upper control arms. Okay, back at it. Now we're to the hood. Try to get this upper control arm bolt out of here. So I'm going to start. Gearbox looks to be in the way. Out. So this looks like the front half of the bolt. Okay, at this point I have got the nut out from the left side of the control arm here. Get some better light. I have the ball joint nut off, and just to keep it's not under a lot of stress, I have a jack underneath the lower control arm just to keep most of the tension off the upper control arm and the spring. So the nut's off. It's actually broken free, and I put a kind of a bungee cord around just to keep it from falling outwards. Here's what I ended up using to get the nut out. 16mm, and I taped a magnet on the back side. So I was able to get the nut out without dropping it, because I imagine if you drop it in the wheel well, you're not going to find it. and you're gonna be replacing it. Putting it back on will be a little easier because then I can just tape the nut to the wrench, which I've seen, I think in the other video or one of the forums. That's where I got some of these ideas. So at this point, light, control arm's loose. It was loose. Control arm's loose, and the steering knuckle is fine. Now we come up to the inside of the car. Here's the other, I guess the head of the long bolt that goes through there. Try to hold this steady. I know I hate watching videos myself, but everything's flying around. So, there it is. Okay, so both control arms out. You can see why we're changing. This is really flopped around inside the car. There's a new one. Yeah, this upper ball joint, you can't even move that. So now it was not Mercedes branded. Let's see if we can see the name on this. Anyways, there's the part number. Yeah, it looks like the brand is OCAP. OCAP. So, anyways, I'm gonna put this back in, put the nut and bolt, or put the bolt through it, put the nut on the end of it, and then drop it down and obviously tighten it up in the car's level. Otherwise, you're stressing these bushings. If you tighten it up while it's drooped and the car levels back off, it will constantly stress the bushing. So you want it in its resting position before you tighten this up. So we'll get doing that next. All right, I'm gonna try to record putting the new control arm in the best I can. This is where that little Canon Vixia Mini comes in handy. It's quite a wide angle. So the reverse part of this should be pretty uneventful. Okay, so that's where we're at right now. Partially lined up. With the next size up now. Okay, I'm not going to beat on that too much. I want to line up the other side next. Actually, now I have a little inspection camera in here. So a little side mirror on it so I can actually see what I'm doing. Looks like it has to go back just a pinch. Awesome. Okay, so that. Okay, so the bolt is through. I managed to get the nut started by putting the nut in this magnet. I actually stuck my inspection camera back in there so I could see what I'm doing. I took a few snapshots of that, so I'll post that in the video. So at this point, it's just a matter of putting the upper ball joint back through the knuckle. As you can tell, there's no spring left. There's no spring force in this because it's not tightened down yet, as I mentioned earlier. It has to be tightened down once it's level. Get the bungee cord out. Like I said, it really wants to flop forward a little bit, but it's nothing terrible. And just like before, this is probably unnecessary, but I use the old nut just to draw the taper down, because the new nut has got a lot of self-locking plastic on it, and it's just gonna end up spinning her. Another new nut. I can see. You can see that. There's a good plastic ring on there. I find when it catches the threads, it wants to turn the whole thing. So I draw it down with the old one first. I'm going to put this on the lowest setting. The torque on this is only 33 foot-pounds, so. Okay, we're on the driver's side now. It's not as bad as the passenger side. Everything's done from out top. Essentially, one bolt that held the windshield fluid jug on. Move that out of the way. Took off this connector, I assume for the ABS module. I was able to get a socket in here and up to, come on. Anyways, I'm on the nut. And my helper is holding the other end with a wrench. So we're gonna take this out and then just basically repeat the process. So this side, like I said, isn't nearly as bad. We got the screw out. Now with the bolt through the control arm loose, there's no more tension on the bushing. So now it's just loose, and I don't even have anything supporting the lower control arm this time. It just didn't seem necessary. Yeah, there's nothing here. Back under the hood, an idea of what's happening up here. I was able to reach in with some long needle nose pliers and get at this bolt. Okay, so that side's out. All right, so now with the long bolt out, I can just reach in and pull out this control arm. And the side is very loose. Okay, so I am now getting ready to put the driver's side upper control arm in. Okay, managed to get the long bolt through the control arm. So I'm just going to snug that up just enough to keep everything in place, and then finish tightening it up when it's on the ground. And that pretty much wraps this up. Thanks for watching.